Hi viewers, I am Vasuki, Assistant Professor of Commerce from SFR College for Women, Sivagasi. The planning process is essential for every managerial functions. So, one of the main and primary functions of the organization. So, let's go into the topic. Planning. What do you mean by planning? Planning is a bridge or it's a connecting device between a gap between the where we are and where we are going to do. That is connecting device from the present and the future. And in the simple words, it's a foreseeing the future contingencies. Contingencies is nothing but mistakes or any other wrongdoing activities. So, in some cases, plan for it to accomplish the often objectives of the organization. Then planning process. Planning is a primary managerial duty of the organization, and that is, it means what to do and how to do in the future. There are several activities involved in the planning process. Before doing something, the manager must form an opinion on how to work of the specific job. That is the objectives. Objectives framing is a main process of the planning. Then planning is hence a planning correlated with discovery and creativity. Manager should set the goal of the organization as the first step. Then it needs holding on to the decisions since it includes selecting a choice from the alternative ways performance. There are several methods of the organization. The very first one is setting the objectives. Second one is developing the premises. Third, identifying the alternatives. That is, several alternatives are framing in the process of, in the stage of planning, evaluating the alternatives, selection from alternatives and implementation of the planning. The last step is follow-up action. Setting the objectives. It's a primary step of planning which specifies the objectives of an organization. That is, what an organization wants to achieve. The planning process begins with the setting of objectives. That is, the objectives are end results which the management wants to achieve by its operations. Objectives are specific and measurable in terms of units. Objectives are set for the organization as a whole for all departments, and then departments set their own objectives within the framework of the organizational objectives. For example, a mobile phone company sets the objectives to sell 2 lakh units in the next year, which is double the current sales. That is, it must be measurable one. That is, 2 lakh units is a measurable objectives framed by the organization. Then planning is essentially focused on the future, and there are certain events which are expected to affect the policy formation. That is, such events are external in nature and affect the planning adversely if ignored. Their understanding and fair assessment are necessary for effective planning. Such events are the assumptions on the basis of which plans are drawn, and that is called a planning premises. For example, the mobile phone company has set the objectives of 2 lakh units. That is a measurable one. Sale on the basis of forecast done on the premises of favorable government policies towards the digitization of transaction. That is, the digitization of transaction is a developing premises under the government policies. The next stage is identifying alternative course of actions. Once objectives are set, assumptions are made. Then the next step is to act upon them. There may be many ways to act and achieve objectives. All the alternative courses of actions should be identified. That is an example. The mobile company has many alternatives like reducing prices, increasing advertising and promotional activities and after sales services and so on. So many alternatives are there. So, to identify which alternative has to be best, what are the alternatives are possible in the planning process, that should be identified in this stage. The next stage is Evaluating alternative course of action. In this step, the positive and negative aspects of action of each alternative need to be evaluated in the light of objectives to be achieved. Every alternative must be evaluated in terms of lower cost, lower risks and higher returns within the planning premises and within the availability of capital. For example, the mobile company will evaluate all the alternatives, which is it has own merits and demerits, lot of own merits and demerits, all the possible alternative ways the planning process must be evaluated. Then selecting one best alternative, the best plan which is the most profitable plan and with minimum negative effects is adopted and implemented after the selecting the planning process. In such cases, the manager's experience and judgment, it plays a very important role to selecting the best alternative. For example, mobile phone company selects more TV advertisement or online advertising with great after sales service. Which one is the best suitable? That must be measurable by the manager. Then implementing the plan. This is the step where other managerial functions come into the picture. After selecting the particular plan, it must be implemented after that planning process. This step is concerned with doing what is required. In this step, managers communicate the plan to the employees clearly to help convert the plans into action. This step involves allocating the resources, organizing for labors and purchase of machinery. For example, mobile phone company hires salesman on a large scale, creates TV advertisement, starts online marketing advertising and sets up service workshops. They have to be conducted after that is it must be implementing the plan of mobile phone company. Then last stage is the follow up action. Monitoring the plan constantly and taking feedback at regular intervals is called follow up. Monitoring of plans is very important to ensure that the plans are being implemented according to the schedule. Regular checks and comparisons of the results with the set of standards are done to ensure that objectives are achieved. For example, a proper feedback mechanism was developed by the mobile phone company throughout its branches so that the actual customer response, revenue collections, employee response and so on. Then thank you so much.